They decided they didn't want to do it? Oh, really? How does that get resolved?
One of them was on the ballot and won, so I needed to talk to you if you could go on and take the next one that had the most votes.
Oh, from the party's perspective? It's not a party position, is it? Is it a...
No.
You
Guys, it's your appointment.
Oh, we can appoint? Yeah, I'm not going to know anybody, so I would say whoever's next in line.
That's what I'd like to do to get a
I might want to know their name. Do a little due diligence, but
right.
make sure they're not just going to screw something up over there, you know.
He got appointed to disciplinary, like Supreme Court. He's got a 5-day trial license.
Really?
All right, you might double check that.
Here in town or out of town?
It's out of town, but he's by Zoom. Pawnee County's all the way people to ring all the time.
Oh, wow. Well, here's the 4 executive sessions.
Do you have all those executive sessions?
Pass that down over to.
Yeah, Dean or whoever you get.
That's the one I got in my email.
You'll have Robert and.
Robert's gonna be here.
Yep, he's back there. And Tom go on that, and then we'll go in on the other. Oh, I'll go in on the other 3. Okay.
Everybody's ready?
Uh-huh.
The meeting of the Board of Ellis County Commissioners will now come to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donna, if you could call the roll.
Sure. Commissioner Dean Hazelhorse,
Present.
Chair Commissioner Butch Schleier,
Present.
Commissioner Dustin Roth.
Present.
Do you have a quorum present?
Okay. In order of business, we will move the panic alarm system up to the front of the order. And I believe we have 4 executive sessions. And any other changes?
I have none.
No.
Prior minutes, we received minutes from November 16th and November 23rd. Are there any concerns regarding those?
Nope, got them today from Donna, so.
Okay, then they will stand as presented. I need a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business. Bill?
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. I put on your counter this evening a letter I received from KDOT Friday afternoon announcing that we have been selected for a new bridge under the KLBI bridge, Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program. And that would be the bridge that we discussed, that we had the temporary close on 310th on the North County line. And if you remember on the road tour, when we looked at the bridge on 140th, that old steel girder bridge, we talked about that if we could get a grant, we would put that up because we can then get $50,000 extra dollars of value out of it. So the grant is for a total of $251,000. Of that, the KDOT would put up $150,000. We would get $50,000 for getting rid of or closing the bridge on 140th, and then the county's responsibility would be $51,000. The bridge on 140th is, if you remember from bridge inspections in 2019, that's the bridge on the cover. That bridge is 100 years old this year. It has a sufficiency rating of, right now, of 42. When it gets into the 30s is when you start to get very concerned. And because it is fracture critical, it requires the special inspection on top of the normal inspection. And then I looked into, if we were to have to replace that bridge, it's a 141-foot span, we're looking somewhere north of $750,000. Be a lot for a bridge that has a few cars a day. So with that, I just wanted to make you aware that we did get it, and our plan, with your blessing, would be to go forward and start the process to accept it, the funding from KDOT, and then it would be a KDOT-led project. It wouldn't be a county project. They would do the whole thing for us, much the same as they're managing the Northwest Business Corridor.
Bill, just to confirm, this is one of the bridges that was earmarked for our bond as well, right? So
No.
this is not one
No,
of them?
This is the one that recently, a few months ago, that piling rotted out on, where we had to close one lane of the bridge. We brought it down to a 5-ton rating. We were able to temporarily reinforce it with a steel girder, which allowed us to still have two-way traffic, but still 5-ton. If we replace it with the bridge that we applied for with KDOT, it will have no weight restrictions on that. And the bridge in Ellis has on 140th, right now that has what's considered a 10, 15, 26, which would be 15 would be a semi, so 30,000 pounds max, so you're not gonna bring very much over it.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a project that would be useful with that bond money, especially, coming up with that 51,000
We've
unless.
got that earmarked.
We got it in budget, okay?
Well, not in budget, in Fund 78, the road fund.
Okay.
That's my
Road fund,
plan
okay.
for it, to move that, to take care of our portion of it.
Well, sounds good to me.
Sounds like a good deal to me, if we can get a bridge.
Done.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Donna?
I just wanted to share with Commission that please take a look at your trees north of Hayes Public Library on Saturday morning. The Boy Scouts are going to be putting several ornaments that I've seen up on the trees, so take pride in what the youth of our community are doing.
Okay, will do. Any other issues from persons not on the order of business? Any introduction of new employees? Okay. The county alarm system. Brian?
Evening, Commissioners. Brian Shannon, Chairperson for the Ellis County Safety Committee. Appreciate you letting me jump in line this evening. I got some kids that have a commitment this evening, so they appreciate it that they'll be able to make that. As we spoke at the last meeting, we brought the quotes again for the panic alarm system that is in place in the administrative building, as well as some additions to some of the outlying buildings that we've been looking at. There were some questions in regard to if there was any annual fees or anything like that. I emailed you guys each individually with that information. There's nothing that is required on those systems. However, there are some warranty or maintenance that are offered. I don't really have any insight as to whether, recommendation to go with those or not. I'd leave that entirely up to you, but they are available if we would so choose to, but not required.
Has the IT director mentioned anything about those?
I have not gotten anything from Mike on that. I don't know that we spoke about it. I saw him here earlier, he must have stepped out, but yeah, we haven't had any conversations about that. I know that SecureTech one offers a 2-year warranty with the purchase of it. That one then for each 2 years after that was $900 to extend that every 2 years. And being told that you can extend that remotely, so every 2 years it would be a $900 fee if we were to go with that. And then that Centurion one was the one that offered the 3 different levels of protection. It has a 1-year warranty with the system, and then you would look at those fees every year after that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think one of the questions that I think it was Dustin that presented that was if any of the other department heads were interested in it, send you an email. I know you probably received a couple of those. I know there's a couple of them here that have shown up tonight. If you'd like them to speak and have them come up and.
Yeah, if they would like to speak on behalf of a system.
Brian, after looking through them, I know that, see, it's quote number 3, I believe. I mean, that's definitely the
That's
Cadillac.
the big one.
That's the Cadillac of the
So
system.
quote number 3 is going to basically include everything. I did add another 5 buttons to that one from when we spoke the last time. I was contacted by Robert Anderson, who's the county attorney-elect. If we were to put one in the courthouse, they would like to be included in that as well. So depending on which system you go with, that Centurion system would be basically an extra $500 or $100 a button to include that. The other one was $125 a button on the SecureTech to include that one. So
I believe Mr. Anderson said he would pay for that himself.
he did offer, yes, but I wanted to include it in the quote so you guys had a total if you chose to do so. But he did say that he has some funds that he could purchase that as well.
Sure.
And then
Okay.
if we go with quote number 2 through Centurion, the $25,000 on that one, that is less buttons, obviously, and doesn't include all the buildings, correct?
Yeah, on that one, I did not include the courthouse or the extension office in that quote. I believe Donna Krug is here as well, and is one of the people that want to speak, so I don't want to speak on their behalf. But the reason I didn't include that was just I was unaware of what the county's responsibility was for that building, and that was just the knowledge on my part. So that is the only reason that I didn't. It didn't include the extension office in that one. It was not a recommendation to include or exclude them. But just wanted to present as much information to you guys as possible.
That was an extra $10,000 to include them.
To include the courthouse and the extension
And the
office.
extension
Yeah,
office,
you're looking
correct.
at $25,500 for that quote number 2, and
I guess $36,500,
$549 to include the courthouse and the extension.
11,000 difference.
A couple things on that system that, just to kind of explain that cost, you would have the signal boosters, the gateway base modules at each location to extend it from this building to those buildings. And then on that Centurion system, there's a $3,200 fee expansion system on that anytime we get over 35 buttons. So including the courthouse gets us over that 35 buttons, which is why that $3,200 expansion fee is that you see on quote number 3.
Detective Shannon, I'm looking through your email here, and it does have this silver cost, gold cost, and platinum costs to add warranties, it looks like. But it doesn't really say what those warranties are on here. Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah.
I think we got that in an email, didn't we?
Well, I have that email pulled up here, and it says you can get this silver, gold, and platinum, but it doesn't really say what those cover and how long those warranties are for.
I thought he sent us, yeah.
In there at all?
Yeah, he sent us that, what the warranties,
Oh, down below here, there we go.
Yeah.
yeah. Because it should have been, wasn't it like a 3-year?
Yeah, there's a silver, a gold, and a platinum. The silver has basically phone, email support, maintenance system and updates. The PC to rest support and maintenance, that's something that isn't included in this system. But the other ones is, the gold shows some other IT network support, setting, storage, and correction effort. And then that platinum would basically include everything as far as hardware and extend the warranties on sensors, a battery replacement program, free two-way shipping on repairs, things like that. If there is non-warranty repairs, that silver has a 10% discount, gold has a 15% discount, the platinum has a 25% discount if there was any repairs required for something out of warranty.
So do we have to do the warranty tonight if we choose, or can we do that before it
Yeah,
expires?
that can be added at any time,
Yeah,
is my
'cause-
understanding.
I know I would sure like to have Mike chime in on that before we would commit to any warranties.
Sure.
Yeah, that's my thought process. Even as I look through these, I would almost say go for the cheapest warranty. I mean, we pay for an IT department. I would imagine this is pretty simple stuff for them, and there's no reason for us to add additional protection if we're paying people to handle that kind of
We're
thing.
ready.
And again, this is the same company, that Centurion is the same company of the system that we have. I'm not aware of any issues that we've had with this system. We've had to replace batteries. I emailed Lori the other day, there's some batteries that when I checked the system that were going low, so to update those, but I think it is a pretty reliable system. Would hope that we wouldn't have a lot of problems with it.
Okay.
So, and it looks like then if we do the Centurion and we don't even take any of these warranties, then, they by far come in quite a bit lower than the Secure Tech on all of these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by far.
Yeah, the Centurion one was the cheaper bid that we received.
Is Mike not out? Did Mike leave?
I think he must have, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if he's coming
Okay.
back or not.
Can we hear from some of the
Yeah.
department heads who want to
He's here, so
speak on their behalf?
Hello, Commissioners. I'm
Hi.
Donna Krug. I'm the District Director for the Cottonwood Extension District. We are located in the office there at 601 Main, and so when Brian reached out to us and mentioned this possible or potential project, we do have concerns. Sometimes we do have just one of our employees at the front office, and so we just would like your consideration if it's not too costly. Understand that, it's final, your decision, but if you have questions, I'll be happy to try to answer, but.
Don, how many people come through the extension office in a given day or week?
That's one thing about extension is every day is different, but we have 7 employees at the Hayes office, so, I was there the whole afternoon, and I noticed probably 4 walk-in people. And I would have to say during COVID, the foot traffic has been a little less.
Mm-hmm.
But there are busy times of the year that we might have more than 20 people in during the day too. And we do have some public meeting spaces as well that get utilized a lot.
Commissioner, I do know during the summertime, their foot traffic increases substantially.
Very much so, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any issues with security?
Not that I'm aware of. I think, there's just so many unknowns now that, I don't think anyone likes to be in a large space by themselves, and that does happen occasionally.
Okay.
But I also know the expense too, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Mhm.
Thank you, Donna. Thanks for coming and talking. Yeah.
Sure.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak regarding the system? Okay. Now, Darren, end of the budget year, do we have funds available for this?
That's affirmative. We have the administrator's contingency that's available to us. We've only used less than 20% of that, and that was all based off of the sales tax meetings and publications we did at the earlier part of the year. So there is sufficient funding in the administrator's contingency to pay for the entire project, whichever option the commission would choose.
Okay. Commissioners, I'd be in favor of going for this system to include all of these departments that Brian has listed. I believe it is a matter of safety. We can afford it. It's the time to do it. So I think we need to take that step and just do it.
At the, well, I guess Brian could answer this.
Yes.
As far as at the courthouse, I mean, everybody goes through a metal detector when they come in anyway.
Yes.
Can't get into the building unless you pass through that, correct?
Yes, the entrance, they do have to go through security. I will say that we do have 2 courthouse security officers in there. However, they can't be in every place at once. You know, I'd hate for something to be missed that, you know, everybody thinks metal detectors are going to catch everything. I saw an officer today that had a knife that looked like a real knife and was plastic and could definitely be a weapon. So just made me think of that could be something that could be brought in, could be harmful to somebody, whether it be a judge, an attorney, a defendant, a client in the courtrooms. You know, sometimes the county attorney's office, when I spoke with Robert and some of their staff there, said they have people that come in that may not be an issue when they first come into the office, but as they're sitting there visiting with them in the office or in their conference room or something like that, they have had some issues there. But so yes, it is there and they do have to go through it, but I don't think it's going to be a safety net to catch everything. I'd hate for something to happen.
Okay.
Well, I
Didn't
guess
get
I can
caught
tell
there.
you where my mind's at on this, guys, and it's mainly because, you know, obviously this has been an odd year, and we went at the beginning of the year to tell people we were broke and that we needed their help, and they were willing to help us. And I come from, I guess, a relatively normal perspective of this. I run a fine jewelry store, so there's security concerns at our store, and we take proper precautions for that. We do not have a panic alarm button, but we typically have 2 people on staff, and they're trained, and we obviously teach them that the jewelry is never worth their life, and that's why we have insurance and those kind of things. And so, you know, my big struggle, I know that there's obviously parts of this county that need more security than others, and I think the big blanket approach I don't think is treating the tax dollar the way it needs to be treated in this sense. And there's only a couple of them that I struggle with, and so I think places where we handle cash, like the landfill, I think the courthouse is important. You know, if everybody comes through the right way, then they're fine, but I know we've got front doors that somebody could break through. I know that we could always have issues with people not being happy with court cases, with police, with, you know, there's definitely a security concern there. It's not an easy job being a county attorney. You got to put people away sometimes, and that makes them and their families not very happy. The administrative center, you know, frankly, from that perspective, I think about our tenants in here and protecting them as well and keeping them safe, and so that's important to me. But really the only 2, and then I did have a discussion with Jason about the EMS building. We just don't have a ton of traffic in there that is general public, and we do have a security alarm system that is hooked to a CB for Claudine at the front. So I asked him what he thought, and he said the health department probably, they have drugs out there, they have issues with security out there, but probably wouldn't be necessary at the EMS department because they kind of already have those safety aspects, and she's rarely there on her own. So, you know, as I looked at that, I thought, you know, I just thought that it might be a little bit overly abundantly cautious to be adding a panic alarm to the county shop and weed department, to the EMS building, to the extension office, and I believe that was it.
I know at the weed department she handles, and I don't know how much, Bill could maybe say, she does handle a lot of money out there. I know I've been in there numerous times, and I know for a fact, when I've been in there, there's been $10,000+ there.
Oh, really?
They
In
don't have
cash?
charge accounts. You
No,
pay or
no,
write
you-
a check.
When you show up there, it's
Cash?
cash in hand. you know.
Really?
So
Okay.
I mean, I bet on a busy day, I'm just guessing, and Bill can help me out, I bet 10 to 15,000 on a busy day.
It could be that much.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, if they're handling large amounts of cash, I definitely wouldn't, yeah, no problem with
She
that
handles
at
a lot
all.
of money out there, because it's like Bill said, there's no charge accounts. When you show up, you pay.
But I don't know how that, you know, like I said, I'm kind of line item vetoing it. I just looked at my own personal situation. You know, one of my favorite economists in the world is Milton Friedman, and he talks about how people spend their money. And some people spend their own money on themselves, and they're usually very careful with it, and they really think about it. Then there are people that spend their money on other people, and they're less careful. They're buying it for somebody else. It's not an important decision for them. And then there's people that spend other people's money on other people. And that's when you don't look at things, you know, real closely, and that's how you just spend because you think the money's there, and in 10 years, the money's not going to be there when the sales tax is done, and I think that that's what we need to be looking at the beginning. I mean, we just started collecting that tax on October 1. So while I know these systems are important, we need to upgrade, we're about to run out, we need to get all these systems where they need to be. I just struggle with, you know, those couple, and the expense that they are. I mean, we're talking, you know, $2,600 to add a panic alarm button at the extension office, and I just have never really thought of any situation where somebody might come in with ill intent at an extension office.
Commissioner, understand exactly what you're saying. Oftentimes, we view this too often from the wrong perspective. We're always looking for a bad guy to come into a place and wreak havoc. Sometimes it's a disgruntled employee. Most of the time, that's what you see on the news. Someone who's worked in a place has gotten all pissed off and been out of shape, and they go back to work they're familiar with and wreak havoc. So you know, there's a couple of different perspectives on that, and we are definitely looking at an issue of safety. And as I was contemplating this for the last couple of weeks, I listened to the radio with frequency, and I did hear a radio commentator, as they were talking about society in general. He said, this country is completely off the rails. And I believe that guy hit it 100% on the head. You don't know who you can trust, who's going to be angry and pissed off at any given time. And I always just like to err on the side of safety. I know when I was in the health department, and we had a monitoring system, I had cameras set up where I could watch the front desk from my office in the back. There were some occasions, a handful, that people got pretty belligerent out front. And when I walked out front, I was able to calm that down just with my presence. But I know the ladies always felt uneasy when I wasn't around too. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure in the extension office it's the same way. Someone's in that building by themselves. They don't know what they can be confronted with. It's that uncertainty. And when we look at the cost of the system, it is a big cost, $36,000. We were paying $40,000 a year plus to belong to that Northwest Kansas Planning Association. And for many years, no one even questioned that. This is a one-time deal. We don't have to do it every year. Fortunately, at this point in time, we do have funds to do it, to look at employee safety. And I don't know if that'd be the same situation next year. If people wanted to add on to this, we might not be in the same situation next year. So I'm just in favor of trying to accommodate the employees with their safety issue regarding this.
Brian, what would be the cost next year?
So the Centurion Elite system, that is contingent on trading in our old system that's going to be obsolete. I don't know, I basically got them to agree to last year's prices, I think is what it was. When we first started looking at this system, I know that just the brains of the system, so to speak, was $7,000 if I remember correctly. And in the time that we've been looking at this in the last couple of years, it's gone to $11,000, which is what our quote was last year. So I don't know how much longer they're going to offer that trade-in option on that Centurion Elite. I did ask him if that trade-in goes away, what they would be looking at. I don't recall the exact numbers that they gave me, but I know it was in excess of $20,000 just for that brains of the system. So it's a pretty elite system. But yeah, I can't tell you how long that $11,000 price tag would stay there.
Well, I just want to reiterate, I almost all these departments, I think they need this. I wonder, even with road and bridge and the weed department out there, you know, I think if we're going to do it, we might as well have it at the county shop too, because it looks like you buy one of these gateway modules. But I just can't imagine that there's not a cheaper way for them to give a signal to somebody that somebody is having an issue out there. And you know, for me, if I wasn't willing to pay for it for myself and my staff, I just can't find myself finding a way in places that I don't see a direct need or feel like they're dealing with big issues with the public on any given day. I mean, it's a weed department. It's farmers out there, you know, buying chemical. I don't think they're ever really going to be disgruntled or have problems. I know on occasion they have to tell them that they cannot buy from them or what have you. I think they'll just go down the road to Simpson Farm Enterprise and buy something there, you know. You know, that's just where I'm at on it. I'm 100% with you. The health department, I think, especially since we have the agreement with High Plains Mental Health and we deal with a lot of the general public in there, and we have, you know, prescription drugs that we keep in there and things like that, could definitely see that issue happening there. But specifically the EMS building, Jason has told me he doesn't think it's an issue. So I don't know why we would spend $2,500 on something when they already have a fail-safe in place with their radio system. So,
Commissioner Hazelhorst.
You know, I guess, and I didn't know how Jason, you want to come up here? Mr. Kennedy, you want to come up, please? I never had an opportunity to ask him about this, but I guess if he doesn't feel that he needs it out there, then I guess I'm with him on that also.
and he did say health department was it's probably a for sure need.
Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Services Director. So Dustin called me earlier today, and if it comes down to finances, I don't want to see someone else lose a button when the EMS building, if we have to give up something. But if we're going to treat the county as a whole, I'm perfectly fine with that plan as well. It's just, I don't want to see this program killed over $2,600. So if that's the savings we need, we do have locked doors at that facility. We have low traffic through there. We do kind of have a smaller window. It would be a little more difficult. And we do have a part of our radio system. We do have a head unit right there on the front desk staff, or on Claudine's desk, with a alarm system. But it kind of comes down to what you guys decide, if we want to treat every building in the county the same, or but like I said, I don't want to see the plan. I don't want to see the plan fail over, you know, $2,500 if that's what we need to do.
You do take payments there, right? Still
Yeah, we don't handle much cash. We try to avoid accepting cash, really. So mostly checks, and then a lot of people just do their payments online or by phone. And we've got a very small amount of petty cash there. So We do exchange checks, cash, and obviously you have, people that can be upset about EMS bills, but it's, if there is a building in the county that is fairly safe and, if we needed to save that money, like I said, let's prioritize other places if we need to, but treat the county the same. I'm on board with it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I guess just Butch looking through the list,
Yeah.
almost every department listed handles cash other than the county shop, and unfortunately, I've been out at the county shop, and there can be some pretty disgruntled people up front, as Bill Ring will attest to. I guess I don't want to single anybody out, especially anybody that handles cash. The extension office, I know, handles cash too. At the end of the day, the only one I guess we're looking at really is EMS, in my opinion, and really, we have a heck of a staff there also, and I'd hate to see anything happen there. If we're gonna save $2,600 to exclude one, I would just soon probably include them, Butch, actually.
Okay.
That way it's a complete system.
It looks like the total on this is short then of what we would need to add for the attorney's office, correct?
The 36,549 includes the $500 to incorporate the county attorney's office.
Okay, so it's additional buttons at the courthouse?
Yes,
is what it
yeah.
is.
They
Okay.
originally had requested 15 to cover everything, so I added 5, which
I
brought that to
gotcha.
20. So.
Okay,
Basically, if they're paying for that, it's $36,000.
So I just did some quick figuring, 33,949 if you were not to include the EMS building, and then 33,549 if you were not to include those 5 buttons at the cost to the county. Like I said, Robert said he does have some funds, but I wanted to be fair, so I included him in the total.
well, I would almost say that Robert doesn't need to pull from his funds. He's going into his first year as county attorney. I think he needs to see how things are gonna roll for him. I'd hate to squeeze him, especially when he's got, it sounds like they're lining up cases, trials like crazy because of COVID-19, so I'd hate to squeeze him in his first year. for
I
anything.
think from the fact he offered to pay for it and just
Yeah.
reinforces the issue that he thinks it's important enough to do it.
I 100% agree with him in that office, too. As I said, that there can be definitely people that are seriously disturbed about what has happened with their loved one or whatever when they have to put them behind bars, so. Oh, there's Robert.
I'd just add for you guys, for those of you who don't know me, Robert Anderson, County Attorney-elect. When I talk about putting up the funds for these buttons for our office, that would come out of our diversion fund. So when we divert cases, they pay a diversion fee. That fee, or that fund currently is quite healthy. It's independent of our fund for our office, our budget for our office from the county. Like I said, it's quite healthy at the moment. It's meant for stuff like this. It's meant for buying equipment for law enforcement, training, things like that. I know it's not a huge help, $500-600, but I just thought if our office, considering really the only ways in are through security or through the sheriff's office, we may not even need these buttons, but I'd rather have them than not have them. We'd be more than happy to chip in through that diversion fund. So it's not squeezing us at all.
Okay.
It's not coming out of our general budget, so we're more than happy
That's
to
great.
provide those.
Okay.
Well, I guess after he said that, I guess if he wants to pay for that, I'm in favor of the system minus
Sure.
the 5 buttons.
Mine, yeah.
If he wants to pay for them, that's fine.
Yeah, I
So-
think that's an important spot for sure.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. Will it be $36,140 or $36,049 if Robert's paying for his?
If you just exclude his 5 buttons, it would be $36,049.
I'll make a motion to approve the Centurion system for $36,049.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you,
moving me
Brian.
up too. I appreciate it.
Okay, a virus update, Jason.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Services Director. So I think it's been like 3 weeks since we've talked. COVID's not better. It's obviously worse. Cases are up. Hospitalizations are up. What we've talked before, we've spent just a ton of time on numbers, but I think we've lost sight of the fact that numbers are impacts to the community. So as cases go up, impacts go up. There are a few bright spots on the horizon with COVID-19. Obviously, the vaccine is supposedly going to be here before the end of the year. We've had a few questions in our office about the vaccine, prioritization of the vaccine. We have had really no input from the local health department side on vaccine prioritization. That has been handled at the state level. The state seems like they are going to control all of the distribution. We've seen no comprehensive plan in our office of how that's going to get out or what that looks like. We do know that they have storage lined up in a few designated spots in the state. They are not disclosing those locations for security reasons, and they are going to prioritize, at least the last that we saw, they're going to prioritize frontline healthcare workers and long-term care residents. Now, how that works at the local level, how that gets down to us, we've seen none of those plans at this point. We have had conversations, obviously, with the hospital and medical providers. We sort of have a plan of what it looks like, but we don't know when it's coming or what we're getting or what the state's input's going to be. So we're still kind of in a holding pattern on that, but it does look like there will be vaccine by the end of the year. Hospital capacity, obviously today's numbers, Ellis County residents, the hospital capacity, our numbers are lower than they have been in the last 2.5 weeks. That doesn't mean that the hospital is doing better. They still have obviously issues really nationwide with hospital capacity issues, but we are not at the point, at least in Ellis County, where we're giving any type of crisis care in the parking lot or that people are being turned away at the ED because they're having medical issues. I haven't talked much about hospital capacity because that's really their numbers to report, and they do a pretty good job of putting it out there on their Facebook page and other sites. But Ellis County numbers are a little better, but we got to remember we've got a large regional catchment area, so as our numbers improve, other areas' numbers are not better. Contact tracing CDC changes. So the CDC came out with new guidance. This is kind of the first change really in a year from the CDC as far as what I see as a positive change. They are doing what public health should have always done, which is brought people to the middle. This plan has shortened the quarantine up some. Obviously, that's going to eliminate some of the impacts to individuals as far as financial impacts, physical, mental impacts from the extended duration quarantines. So the two options right now are a test-based strategy, which is after day 5, so 5 days post-contact. So you can't have continued contact inside your home. 5 days post-contact, you can test on that day by PCR, which is the nasopharyngeal, the one where they jab your brain. Go in, get that. When that tests, so you need to isolate for the 5 days. You need to isolate for the 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, whatever it takes to get your test results back. If you get your negative test results back after you've done at least your 5 days tested, isolated till you get your test results, then you can return to normal COVID-safe activities. If you don't want to test, then they reduced it from 14 days to 10 days. That's still post-contact. So if you live in a home with a positive and you cannot isolate inside the home, you could still be in quarantine for up to 20 days. So those are really the two, kind of the two big changes is the vaccine and then the CDC guidance on quarantine and isolation. We obviously consulted with you guys. We went ahead and adopted the shortened guidelines. I think it will be a positive for 2 reasons. One, it will encourage people to, 14 days is such a long time frame that I think a lot of people just said, you know what, if I'm not going to do all of it, I'm going to do none of it. And so hopefully we can get people at least to isolate for that 7 to 10 days, or we can encourage them to go in and be tested. There's monikers with testing and all that kind of stuff, but honestly, the best plan is to go and be tested post-contact. It allows us to maybe diagnose or find the infections faster, isolate once you become a positive, stay out of the community for your 10 days, and then get back to COVID-safe life. That's really all I've got for you guys tonight. You guys have any questions for me?
I don't, Jason. Thank you.
Jason, what kind of testing are they doing outside of the mall here in Hayes?
So it's a PCR, it's a nasopharyngeal PCR test, which is the one where they stick the deep swab down in there. They send it off to North Carolina. I think it's North Carolina where the lab goes. So the mall testing is funded through CARES. It's CARES funding through the state of Kansas. The state of Kansas, from the governor's office, pushed out a large, widespread testing plan. They really want to test. Their plan is to test every Kansan before the end of the year. So this is part of that statewide push. It is completely controlled through KDHE funding and by the private lab. Our stake in it is literally just the contact tracing, contact investigation. I know they've had some issues out there with turnaround times, with test results, lost test results, things like that. I honestly, I empathize with people who went out there, tried to do the right thing, and that company wasn't able to, to fill the need. I encourage them to go back and be tested. There's also, we've posted tons of information on our website and on Facebook of support numbers that they can call for the Tour Health, the company that's doing it, to get those test results. From the start, we've told people if you're sick, go see your doctor. That is still best practice. Ellis County has been phenomenal. Our medical community has been phenomenal from the start. We have had the highest test rates per capita. We've been in the top 10 test rates per capita from the start of this, before the state sent this lab here, or this testing facility here. So our medical community has done a phenomenal job. Their turnaround times are still 24 to 48 hours. They're not going to lose your test results, and they do a great job. So if you're sick, go see your doctor, because if it's not COVID, it's something else. That's what doctors do. Let doctors be doctors. And then if you're curious, if you're a contact of a positive, if you're you just want to know, you want to make good decisions coming into the holidays, whatever, the testing at the mall is a great site for that. They have returned a lot of results. It's not like they're losing all of them, but we have heard a few people that have had that situation.
I've heard a lot of, we're supposed to expect some kind of a bump here because of Thanksgiving holiday. Is that probably to be expected? And
we haven't seen it. We saw our largest case days and our biggest increases were actually began 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving, but we also saw a large increase in testing. So as testing goes up, cases go up, but we also have a ton of COVID in our community. Mm-hmm. So just because we're not seeing another spike or we're on the downtrend doesn't mean that COVID has gone away. As our numbers decrease, our testing decreases. We still have widespread community transmission, really uncontrolled community transmission in Ellis County, in the state of Kansas. There's not really a single locality that is doing well with COVID transmission. So actually we saw a huge spike. Our largest increase, 7-day increase, was on the 21st of November, prior to Thanksgiving. We've really been on kind of a downward trend since then. We're not quite 2 weeks out from Thanksgiving, but we should start seeing that change. But we've also seen a large reduction in testing at the mall, and we've seen a reduction in testing really countywide. So our percent of positive is decreasing, which is good, and we haven't seen a large spike in newly diagnosed cases.
how do you expect that to look as the college students head out and aren't around for a month or so?
I'll be honest, I don't think we'll see a large change in COVID-19 until really a vaccine is out or we stop testing. Mm-hmm. Those are going to be the two biggest changes. And as the initial vaccine rolls out, I actually think that we will see an increase in cases, because I think people that are making positive choices now will likely stop making those positive choices because there's the vaccine now, even though they can't get it. So I think we'll actually continue to see cases increase for the next 6 months until there's widespread vaccination or until we change our testing strategies. I think you'll see a slight reduction with 4-day state, but I don't think it's going to be a massive change.
Okay.
Okay, Jason, thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, moving on is the Big Creek Estate Plat Development. Bill?
Again, Commissioners, good evening. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. This is a follow-up to a meeting a few weeks ago where Mr. Prey came in to discuss doing a development of, I believe, 13 houses, which would be just to the east of the existing Buffalo Hills addition. So at that time, we discussed a few things with it, and in your agenda item, there's 4 bullet points that were laid out that we feel would more or less commit the developer and make sure that we don't have issues like we've had in other developments where we've had no control on what goes on as far as drainage, road construction, traffic signage, et cetera.
As far as the drainage goes, Bill, I know out there in the past when we've had decent rains, it washes out that east-west road.
Clay Drive.
Uh-huh. Is that, how do you intend on fixing that, I guess? I've had numerous people from out there that live out there are all concerned with that same area that's washed out in the past. I didn't know if you had, I know you have engineers involved that's gonna look at that, but.
Well, right now, we haven't hired a drainage engineer. We feel that would be something the developer should provide. But what happens is, in the existing addition on the west end of Clay Drive, the drainage problems come up after the fact. Roads are there, houses are built, people have moved in. Water doesn't go where we tell it, it goes where it wants to. So trying to recreate proper drainage when there's now a house in the way or there's a road in the way, and we spent, as Road and Bridge, we spent tens of thousands of dollars out there because of the drainage issues, again, after the fact, because we are not brought into it on the front end. It's always, and that is my fear. On this side of the development, a lot of this area, that squiggly line that runs down here, that's all going in the floodplain. We know there's issues out there. I'm not saying they shouldn't develop, but knowing that exists, it should be properly assessed, and we are not engineers. We're not flood engineers. So I feel that, with some proper guidance as to make sure. I mean, if they say we don't need to do anything, that's great.
Yeah.
But then we have an engineer we can go back after. But if we all just say, oh, we don't need to do anything, it should be okay, it's going to fall back on Road and Bridge.
So this is something the developer would have
All
to
the
take
same.
care of before we are going to approve a plat?
That's staff's recommendation.
Very much.
I mean, it's up to, the commission itself can just, you decide what you want us to do and what you want a developer to do. But we're just knowing the history of other developments, and how many times over the last close to 5 years have I come here about old development issues that just keep rearing problems.
Well, last year you probably rebuilt that road 4 times out there at least.
That's correct. Reservation Road that's one of our largest complained roads. Well,
Exactly.
we didn't design it, we didn't do it, but we end up with, the maintenance, we end up with the issues. We're the complaint department for all these developments.
The city, they always put in water retention ponds and, some of their bigger developments that they've done. Is that something that we could look at doing out there possibly with an engineer being hired?
If needed, I think so.
I think so too. I think that'd be a great idea.
I mean, if we had an idea, it would make overall, it would make a better development for everybody. It would make it better for the homeowners, it would make it better for the existing residents, and it would make it better for Ellis County. But if we wait, like happened with the east or the west side of this development, I get complaints, every time it rains, somebody calls the office from out there. And they're not happy, because that's not what they expected. Well, again, it was never laid out, the expectations of what you're going to get. because no one ever talked to the county about what we do and how we do it.
I definitely think your 4 bullet points need to be met before we go on with any project. I mean, you can't keep replacing the road every time it rains. And I mean, I don't know if I get all the phone calls you get, but I know I get a lot of them from people I know out there, and the road gets washed out because of the drainage issue. And I think before we add more houses, that needs to be taken care of. So,
Yeah, I'm in favor of development, but I think it needs to be done right with consideration for all of those points you've raised, Bill. It saves everyone a headache if it's put in right.
And that's all we're looking for. I mean, I'm very pro-development, but I want to see it go properly, and I want to see the burden come off of us. Because again, when you're trying to fix a problem, when you have things like houses in the way,
Sure.
it's very difficult to do it.
Absolutely.
so from us tonight, you're just asking for preliminary approval, correct, of the plat?
Correct. I mean, and if the developer, chooses to
Move forward.
move forward.
Yes.
I think we've got some guidance. I have shared with him, it's a 6-page document which shows the cross-sections of the typical county road, the different styles depending on what material and whatnot, and we'll work with him on it. But again, we want to make sure that the cross slopes are correct. We want to make sure that the ditches are done correctly. And again, with the amount of water that can come, as we've seen, not so much in 2020, but 17, 18, and 19, where we had collectively 100 inches of rain, we had a lot of problems out there. I mean, I've got a library book full of pictures of flooding out there,
Sure.
and, calls from existing residents.
Commissioner Roth, comments?
Mainly, I guess I'd just like to hear from Adam about, what Bill is suggesting and make sure that, he feels this is fair. I think that's what we need to know from him and know the lay of the land before we get started on this process.
Adam Prey, I'm the proposed developer here. I actually have an engineer here. I've got several people here. They could speak better than I can. I did meet, with Bill and Mason before we got started, before we came here, so I did get some direction. Hopefully, he wasn't directing that at me when he said nobody comes to the county beforehand, because I felt like this was pretty well thought out. We do have professionals on staff. We've got everything figured out, in my opinion, from professionals, from the water to the drainage. We have drain easements, which James can talk to you guys about if you have questions about that. I'm definitely no engineer, but water and gravity tend to go hand in hand, and the way that this slopes down on this side of the road, it's going to go into the floodplain. I mean, there's no question there's a drop-off. So I'm not, it's our first time developing, so I'm not exactly sure what issues are in the past, and I don't think we can solve those. But as far as checking boxes, I feel like we're pretty well, I mean, if you guys have a concern, we've got a professional you can talk to, so I guess what?
We did get the landowner support in our email, I believe, here, didn't we? The approval of support from the landowner for the
Doug Shaw,
right-of-way.
right.
Yeah, we've got that.
I guess I just want to make sure them 4 bullet points are met going forward as far as drainage and everything.
Well, there seems to be a difference between what Adam's saying and what Bill's saying. So are you satisfied with these 4 bullet points being met at this point, Bill?
I mean, if we get something from a professional engineer, puts a stamp on it, that gives us the direction that their opinion as a professional engineer, which is what we normally rely on, that they do not perceive there to be a problem. But I am no water engineer. I'm not a PE either. My son is.
Okay.
But, to make sure, because I know, and down here, where we've got the houses right here on the corner, I know that there's a lot of water that's traversing under an existing culvert that was put in I'm not sure, I'm sure we put it in at some point, or whether Doug Shaw did, I don't know, I'm assuming we would have. But there's a large amount of water that's traveling across, and it's cutting, as we call it, it's cutting the field. So that's going to put somebody's house, could be in jeopardy. I just want to make sure that that doesn't occur. It'd be the corner house here.
And I can speak to that real quick, Bill. We actually are proposing to put 2 more culverts in, one here, and we have drainage easements that there's going to drain to, that the engineer suggested.
Okay.
So we're aware of that, and it's actually an undersized culvert, so we are going to fix that problem, too.
But I just believe that, and if Adam's working towards that, that's fine, but that we have this interworking relationship to make sure that, because when he walks away from this, he sells all the properties and whatnot. I'm sure you don't want to hear about this either. Well, we don't either. You know, we want the people to enjoy living in Ellis County. We want them to have a nice home. We don't want them having flooding issues. I mean, if we had, a 15-inch rain, we're all going to suffer. But under the typical rains that we get, I mean, right now, we're just under 21 inches as of, what K-State put out this morning, which is right in line with what our norm is. But again, as I said, we averaged 100 inches in 3 years, the 3 previous years. So it was excessive. And as far as, and I talked to the county administrator about, like I brought up about the traffic control, we have none. Our biggest fear is that we have safe roads. That's what Road and Bridge does. Right now, the way it stands, this is Reservation Road. You have other roads, you have this road and you've got this road that come out. Reservation Road is a 55-mile-an-hour throughway. These roads here, if you're coming south to enter Reservation Road and a vehicle is westbound on Reservation at 55 miles an hour and you pull out in front of them, it's their fault. Because by Kansas statute, you must yield to the person on your right at an uncontrolled intersection. So here's some guys coming down here just driving along. Statute says I can go 55. This person pulls out. This person's responsible. Because we never enforced any kind of traffic control, because we don't have that as a requirement, which is why I'm recommending for the future, for road safety, that we do something like that. And if we need to do that, I would have no problem working with Mr. Prey. There's only a few roads out there. He wants to take care of his, I'll take care of the others. We use the same engineer. So it's, and he's the one that in the past has done all the traffic control that I have brought to you, adding stop signs, changing speed limits, et cetera. I'd have no problem splitting that. We really shouldn't, it should have been on the previous developer.
Right.
So it's a question of just making sure what he would want, where you're going to extend this road to basically 900 foot to the south. Putting a stop sign here, does he feel there should be anything there? And then again, we've got the protection for Ellis County that we did it correctly. And if there should be a stop sign at Reservation Road, he puts in one, we put in the other two, and we make it a safer place to live. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head. We're on the same team. Adam wants to build a place that's safe for people because he's a young guy and he doesn't want to hear about it for the rest of his life. So I think as long as he's,
I don't want to hear about it.
yeah, well, I think Adam will hear about it more because he's selling this development, and I think I don't think he'd ever want to build anything that wasn't good for the people that were buying it. So with that discussion, I think we're to a point.
Do we need a motion?
Yep. I move to give preliminary approval to move forward with the Big Creek Estates development pending all actions listed below are completed.
I'll second that, and then we have discussion, I guess.
We'll have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
I'm very in favor of the development, but I do want them 4 bullet points met, and I want them presented to Bill in such a fashion they are met.
To Bill's satisfaction.
Our satisfaction to Bill's
Well, then I'll bring it
satisfaction.
back to the commission, letting you know that we've got an engineering report on the drainage. We think it's okay, the developer thinks it's okay, and you know, there's no issue with the one bullet point of, I mean, you've got the road specs, everyone that builds out here knows what the specs are, you have a copy I sent you. So we can do that, so that takes care of that bullet point. If we agree in principle that we'll split the traffic study, basically I'll do 2/3 of it, you take care of your development, and if there's nothing there, then there's nothing there, but then I'll at least get the rest of the development fixed correctly.
I mean, I've got a comment. I'm going to just throw this out there. I kind of feel like I'm a punching bag. You know, as far as this development goes, it is our first time. We do have a reputation, as Dustin mentioned. You know, as far as calling professionals, we've got records of who we called, what we did. You know, that road that you guys are wanting me to build is about a $10,000 to $12,000 added expense. Now, the traffic study, that's an added expense. The flood study is an added expense. At what point do we not encourage development in our county? We have 46 homes on the market right now. I just went to a home today. The guy's building a higher-end home, and the handrails didn't work because they didn't come around. There's a $6,000 handrail into this home, and he's got to take it out. At what point are we maybe fighting ourselves? When do we look at ourselves and say, maybe it's us that is stunting growth? Maybe we can work together, like you guys mentioned. A lot of problems that weren't mine that I'm fixing. I don't have to put in 3 culverts. That's not my problem. We're going to do it. The one that was put in, I don't know if the county did it, I don't know if the other developer did it, we're going to fix it. You guys want a stop sign, we'll fix it. You know, you want an extended road, there's $12,000. I don't know if we're going to break even on this at this point. At some point, I'm not interested, and I don't know where it's at, but we're getting pretty close.
Can I add on to that as well?
Yes.
So in dealing with this over the last couple of weeks and visiting with Mr. Prey and some of his architects with Buck Driggs and visiting with Bill and staff as well as Mason in the environmental office, it begs that the whole entire process is the problem. We can't have a set of papers that we can say, here, Mr. Prey, this is what we need for a development in Ellis County. These are the boxes. You don't have to necessarily check all of them, but you at least need to say, we've done these, we don't need that, et cetera, whether it's inside the extraterritorial jurisdiction or outside. And I think Mr. Prey would have greatly appreciated that, or any other development that would say, these are what we need for you in advance to putting up this development, instead of here we are month by month, you know, postponing and making decisions on what is needed and what is needed. And in the future, myself, Bill, and Mason, we've already had several discussions about this, and Mason is already on top of that, trying to create that plan, procedures, and checklists, so that way when these developments come up in place again, we can be upfront with the developer so they know what they're getting into, instead of being a punching bag of
I guess it's
time
Bill
after
Ray
time.
knows when Mary Alice did hers out here, she met all the qualifications. Wasn't a problem. I guess that's how I look at it.
Sure.
You know, she had a list to go through, and she met with us I don't know how many times. Tom Wassinger's in the back. He knows all about it. He worked with her on that from start to finish, and she met all the requirements that we asked. I don't know how, it probably took a year, didn't it? I'm sure Tom could attest to it, sitting there in the back, how long that took. It probably took a year to get Mary Alice's addition up in front and done and going. But, I mean, she met all the requirements, everything we asked for.
You know, there's one thing on here that I would like county council to weigh in on. You know, I tend to agree with you, Adam. As a guy who's just did a major renovation of a building with handrails, I know exactly how much of a pain handrails can be when you're in the city of Hayes, and there were times during that process where I felt like people didn't want me doing what I did, and really they were just trying to follow rules or make rules harder than they need to be. I had professional builders tell them that they were stupid rules, and why couldn't they change them? And it's, you know, the nature of the business, I guess. But you know, I'm glad you pushed back a little bit, because, you know, honestly, I don't think Adam should have to pay for a traffic study. If he's building that many homes, and we're going to take tax dollars off of them for as long as they're there. That's how we make money, is property taxes. And and they're going to help bring people to the community, I mean, this is long-term a good idea. I think I would fix the drainage issue if I'm a developer. I wouldn't want people's homes flooding. You talked about the reputation thing. Obviously, as county commissioners, we can't control what land you bought and what issues there are with the water when it gets bought or anything like that. But, you know, I definitely think we should definitely be more in tune with helping in any way that we can. You know, if you're willing to incur some expense, we have a road and bridge department that, you know, I hope could be around to help make sure that this is done right and maybe even offer up some help to the process. We help people put in parks. Why can't we help developers develop and build houses and do the simple little things that maybe help for the future? You know, that's just my thought process on it.
I don't disagree, except that we're not supposed to be working in the private sector. The difference between a park and what he's doing, it's public versus private, it's for-profit versus non-profit.
Right.
And I'm bringing this up because we've tried to bring it up in piecemeal, and I mean, as Commissioner Hazel has referred to, the Blue Sky Edition went on for years. It's still going on.
Right.
Okay? Because we don't have what the county administrator is recommending, the check boxes. Okay? I've never been, and again, we can cover it, but to elaborate, I don't have the budget to do these signage studies. Okay, we can get it done, but because we've never discussed it as a whole, and if you know, I mean, in your time here, I come to you and say, okay, we have an issue. We need to put a stop sign at an intersection. It's a couple, $3,000 in fees. It's because it was never addressed properly at the beginning. And that's all I'm trying to bring the point up to that. I mean, if you want me to do that, I can get it done. But I'm just saying is the 4 bullet points are 4 things that create a lot of the issues that we run into.
Right.
And it costs us 3 times as much to put a stop sign in today on development that was built 10 years ago as it does if we did it on the front end. So I'm looking to be, you know, economically savvy for the county and save money by having something in place. If you want that done, if that's the commission's direction, I have no problem with that. But we don't have the direction, which is why I've brought it up, to try to bring this to the table so we can have this kind of discussion.
Right.
And if you want me to go ahead and do the whole thing, I got no problem with that. But I don't know, I need your direction as a body to tell me which way you want to go, so that, again, after Mr. Prey is done and, you know, Mr. Jones or Ms. Smith comes in here, we can have something to say, okay, here's the basics. Till we get this done with what the county administrator is referring to, where we've got a check sheet, they come out and I say, well, here's the basics. The commission's agreed that we'll take care of the traffic study. We'll do that. You need to do a drainage study, you need to do the roads to our liking, et cetera, and we at least have a starting point. We don't have that. And that's what I'm striving for, is to build that where we can then not have to go back and forth.
Right. I 100% agree that we should have that. I apparently is not in place to the way it needs to be right now. But if our legal hasn't even looked at this, is this even something that we know we can request from somebody as they're developing a property? You know, like I said, I can just feel for Adam in the sense that I've done similar things and had similar issues where I felt like people didn't want me to actually do the thing I was doing, and for no reason at all. I mean, we have a housing problem in Ellis County. We need more houses. We are growing. And if we don't build them, it is stifling growth because people can't get a job that pays enough to pay for a house. It happens all over, and so if that's the problem, we got to figure out a way to make it easier on people to build houses. And if that means it has to happen out in the county, I guess that's the way it's got to be. Wish it wasn't that way.
As houses are built in the county, they're built on roads, and if we are expected to maintain those, they have to be built to county specifications. That's a pretty simple issue right there.
Who would ever disagree with that?
I guess, Mr. Chairman, and to Mr. Rhodes and to Mr. Prey, I guess out of these 4 bullet points, I guess what do you want us to waive? We're asking you to commit the developer to build roads to county specs. Number one, that needs to be done.
Right.
We ain't picking on you. You think we are, we're not. Letter of approval of support from landowner of which right-of-way would be needed to develop. Is that not something that would be a standard?
Got it.
And we got it, so are we picking on you? Hell no, we're not. Next, let's conduct drainage study. Are we picking on you? It needs done. We know it floods. You're building in an area that floods. Out there, it's all floodplain to the south. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ring, am I right?
That's incorrect.
What?
It's not all.
Mostly to the east. but
East and
it
south,
flows to
it
the
drains
south.
because it washes out
Goes
reservation.
east, not south,
Yeah.
is the thing.
It
And
goes, the
Well,
water
it
goes
floods, it
downhill.
floods along reservation.
Exactly.
Between Clay and where the,
Clay Drive and
Sewer
Reservation
Improvement
Road.
District building is.
Correctly, so it's east and south is where it floods and takes out our road. It has numerous times. So I don't think we're asking too much of you, Adam, to do this. The only thing Mr. Rhodes is concerned about is the traffic study. If we need to do it, we will. It's not going to make or break us, but again, you're adding roads to a development, and he's already offered to pay 2/3 of it. We're asking you to pay for 1/3 of it. Is that asking too much? I don't think it is. If we need to pay for it, we can. But again, I don't know out of them 3 bullet points or 4 bullet points, if we do the top 3 should be done regardless. And I think Dustin would agree with you on this. I know he was backing you on this, but still, you got to build roads to county specs. We're not going to let you go out and build a road 12 foot wide. I'm sorry.
yeah, I have no issue with that. I guess I'm just looking for approval. You give me a contingency.
Well,
We
you have
got
a
James
motion
here
and
if you
a
have
second,
any
but
questions.
I just asked for further discussion. You have a motion and a second. And that's all we're asking is you meet at least the first 3 bullet points in the traffic study. I think we can work in-house together.
I think
probably
we can
can.
handle that traffic study. I think that's what we should do for Adam in this process, but especially since it was partially a mishap in the past that's caused it. It's why we're offering the way we are anyway. You know, I agree. I just can feel for you in the sense that sometimes you get involved in these things and you're trying to do something, and it just seems like you're getting beat from all ends. I agree with you guys. We can't have people not building roads to county specs. We got to figure out the water issue so we're not having those roads destroyed all the
It's the
time.
same thing. You just can't go build where you want. You got to have the right of way, which he's already
Yep.
done, he said.
But I don't think the funding will be a problem if we're building, you know, $250,000 homes in a row. The funding's a problem when we got farmland because it's a long ways, and if we're going fixing those roads, there's not a lot of tax dollars coming from those. So I don't think the funding will be an issue in the long run.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, solid waste projects, Darren.
Commissioners, before you tonight in your agenda packet, we discussed this during the road tour again about how we would like to redesign, mostly for safety aspects, the entrance to the landfill and the remodeling or rebuilding of the scale house where we could have 2 scales, much like a grain elevator, one in and one outbound, which would speed the process up. And I have with me tonight the landfill foreman, Vern Reuter, if you should have any questions. I think the picture would be like the second page of your agenda item says a lot of what goes on. It's a nice color picture of how traffic is backing up the volume, as you see with the monthly reports every month. The volume that the landfill is doing is increasing, and it will continue that way, I'm sure. So with that, we did an RFP on the building of the scale house. It's roughly a 20 by 7 house that'll be designed for one person, be the scale house clerk. There's a bathroom in it. It'd be heated and air conditioned. It'd be glass on 3 sides so that they can have clear view to people coming on the scale, people pulling off the scale. As I stated earlier, it should make it much easier for traffic flow, because if you've ever been out there on a Saturday, it's very difficult because of the angle of the existing scale house to see, if you're pulling onto the scale, that there might be 4 vehicles trying to get out. So we want to make that traffic flow faster and safer. So like I said, we did an RFP, we opened the bids, and Hazel Horse Construction was the low bid at $49,400. The other bid, there was only 2 bids received. It was put on the county website per the purchasing policy. It was also sent out to a variety of contractors. We had quite an interest in it, but only 2 bids were received. We had a lot of phone calls. Some people actually went out and looked at it, and whether they were too busy or otherwise, I do not know. With that, we also want to keep the old scale, which we have, which is the vendor Salina scale out of Salina, and move that for what will be the inbound scale, and then to purchase the second scale from Salina scale, which would be the outbound scale. And we want them to match with the existing equipment. We don't want to, that, which is why we continue to use them, and that's allowed in our policy, single source, wherein they would be able to hook both scales together, hook it into the computer system that they have, rather than trying to have Salina scales on the inbound and have to buy a different system and trying to interface that with our computer.
Well, that way you can use it for inbound and outbound and
Correct.
don't ever have to worry about having a difference.
Right, if one broke, we could, if we had a repair needed, whatever, or service, we could go back to running an inbound and outbound temporarily with the same system. And then with that, we also got an upgrade option from Hazel Horse Construction, when I believe the county administrator put a copy of that. That would be to upgrade the siding and go, instead of going with a malarkey type shingle, asphalt shingle, to put tin on both the siding on the building and on the roof, which would give us longevity, wouldn't have to worry about paint, and it would match the rest of the structures at the landfill.
That would be that 3,500.
Correct. So it'd go from 49.4 and then add 3,500, should you choose to accept that option, which staff recommends. There's also in the packet is, the bid opening and whatnot, and the details. The smart siding that was included in the Hazel Horse proposal, that would be similar to a wood or, siding, which we felt the upgrade would enhance the longevity of that, instead of, especially in a commercial structure.
It's definitely out there in the elements too. There's not a lot of protection.
Correct.
It's getting the full brunt.
And there's quite a bit of material from Salina Scale, and they would take care of the entire installation, the concrete work that needed to be done so that the scales could be properly mounted, including, we're looking at the drainage issues where they're going to be designed so the water will flow out and basically wash out underneath the scales, because they, with the amount of traffic that comes across and the dirt that bounces off of it, they get pretty cluttered up underneath, and the way they're boxed in now, it's very difficult to clean. So our proposal with them was to put a slate taper to it, then we can have hoses out there where they'll be able to just blow it out, and then if there's trash involved, they can just pick up, paper, whatever, and if it's just dirt and mud, it'll just wash into the existing area that's out there.
And the 113,000, that includes the new scale and moving the old scale.
That is correct.
Correct.
The scale was approximately, 80?
Yeah, 81 and 31.
Okay.
The scale was 82,152.
That will also include sloping the ramps up to it and installing all the electronics inside. Then it's also going to be flush. The building will be 2 foot high, so the scale will be flush, so there won't be no more crawling over those bars out there. I think you all been out there before.
Oh,
so
yeah.
For safety, you can get out on either side. We'll have steps on one side, and the other side will be even with our door to walk in and pay.
Vern, tell me about the plan while this is going on. There's going to be people bringing trash. How do we handle this?
Well, as people are coming out while we're building this, we'll keep the current scale house that we have now. Once we have the house and a scale built, we will use that as inbound and outbound while they're moving the other scale.
Okay.
So,
That's
and
what I
they will be
figured.
offset, so,
And it'll be back a ways from it, so.
yeah, probably about
There's
300
room.
foot
Okay.
to the north. And, let's see, both the scales will be offset too, so the girl inside there, she can look left or right and you can see them. And we're gonna get away from people coming in when you give your name and phone number and stuff, that you'll just be able to talk to her right face to face, so you don't have to get out of your vehicle. Try to increase efficiency there too, to.
Yeah, I think that'll speed things up.
Yeah.
That's half the time, I think.
Yeah, it
is
is.
Getting in and out and crawling around, plus the issue of possibly slipping or things like that.
Yeah, that's what we want to.
I consider myself nimble, but it's a little tough out there sometimes.
Yeah, we traveled around to a few different scales around in Russell and Sault-Saint and kind of check, see how theirs are all built. Salina Scales does all those scales, and we've come up with a good plan to, like I said, make it easier and safer for everybody.
Has Salina Scale been good to work with? Have they been reasonable on fees and everything like that over
Yeah,
the years?
When we have a load cell or something that goes out on the scale, they come out right away, and they come out once or twice a year, and then they run their machine across to make sure that everything's calibrated. And
very good.
So, and then the state comes out also to double check them.
Well, it's definitely a necessary project.
Yeah, most definitely. It seems like you guys are getting busy out there.
Yeah, it's just every day it seems like we're busier and busier. And we did have that in our 2021 capital plan too.
Okay.
Just so you
Okay.
do.
It's budgeted and we're good financially for all of it. Okay.
Correct, and just to clarify for anybody that's watching, the landfill is an enterprise fund, it is not part of the general fund, so only those that use the landfill pay for the landfill. It's not being paid by taxpayer dollars, and they do have enough funding to complete this project, along with the expansion, just like when the commission approved buying the 180 acres to the north for, we can be in business for another 100 years or whatever.
Okay.
That's all part of the capital plan.
The only other question I had is, I believe we just got under contract with the city of Hayes again for a certain number of years. How many years is left with that contract?
I believe there's 2-3 more years.
That's what I was
still on
saying.
that,
It was
yeah.
a 5-year maybe, or was it a?
I think it was 4 or 5 years.
okay.
I think 2023 we're going to reevaluate.
I know they're a big customer, and I
Yeah.
think that was, we just want to make sure we're treating them fairly, and I think that's what we ended up doing, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Dean, any questions, concerns? Do I hear a motion?
Answered all mine.
I'm on the wrong page. I move the commission accept the lowest bid from Hazel Horse Builders for $49,400 for an 8-foot by 20-foot scale house, and the bid for an additional scale and moving of the existing scale from Salina Scale for $113,567.50.
Second. Oh, sorry.
And the upgrade.
The upgrade is
The upgrade of
3,500.
Oh, yes, yes, and
Metal
the upgrade
siding, metal
of
roof.
the, from siding for the Malarkey shingles in lieu of the pro panel roof and sidewall, so add 3,500 to that.
Still seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, next, Environmental Services. Darren.
Good evening, Commissioners. Darren Myers, Interim County Administrator. Along with this, there comes to be some significant changes within the Public Works Department at the end of this year with the retirement of Bill Ring, and then at the end of this coming year, about a year from now, our landfill foreman will become the county treasurer. So that kind of has led this to kind of reevaluate the organization of that department, and there's been continuous discussion even with this regarding the organizational structure over the last year or so. I believe the commission has had different interactions with our Public Works Director. So with those different ideas in place, it's kind of a need to start planning at that point where we know that these positions are going to be vacated and need to be replaced. So we have had several meetings over the last couple of weeks into figuring out what's the best way to be more effective within those two departments and separate those two out. And with the proposal that's in front of you tonight, it basically pulls the solid waste division and the planning, enforcement, and zoning division out from underneath Public Works and create their own division, the two divisions underneath the county administrator, and then leave Road and Bridge and Noxious Weed under the Public Works Department. And then as we progress through the year, we've also had discussions about the additional office building out there because the environmental office is almost out there daily to work on the hazardous waste materials program. And they have been working to put an RFP together to for the specifications of that building. And so with all of that, taking all that into consideration, staff is recommending that we separate the Public Works into the two and then go out for RFP for that new building out there for environmental office. I know there's a lot more detail somewhat, I guess, in their packet, but I just stand for any questions.
And as we, and I know we've talked about this process, and we do have to initiate it and start it. And as we start this process, you want to move those two offices to the county administrator starting January 1st. At some point, they wouldn't be under the county administrator, though. They'd be their own department together.
Correct. After those positions are vacated, there would essentially then become a environmental services director position, which will work on job descriptions and reorganization of the two divisions. So that way, those two divisions essentially would still have one director in charge, and that, just as all the other county departments, would still report to the county administrator. But they would still have somebody that was involved as a department head over both those two divisions.
Good. And I think something the county needs to do, and as we start looking at all the bond projects we have for Road and Bridge coming up, I think any new Public Works Director needs to focus pretty much just on Road and Bridge projects and their daily routine plus the projects. And I think this is just a good direction for the county to go at this point in time. We really need to consider it.
I'm in favor of that. I've always, been in favor of combining departments like we've done in the past, and it's I think it's worked really well how we've done a lot of that. So I know Jason Kennedy may not agree with that, moving him from EMS, taking over the health department when he took all this over, but there's probably times he'd like to throw sticks and rocks at us, but
Poor guy.
but unfortunately, it's worked out, I think, for the most part, I think pretty well, and I know your role also is taking that over, I guess a couple roles, and Bill Ring taking over many roles too, so I think it's worked out by doing that, so I think we need to continue.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a practical step. If Mason could come up and talk to us about, day in, day out, I know there are times when he has to run out there anyway, and do people even know where you're at here? I mean, anytime I try to call you, I can't talk to you on the phone, so I know it's definitely a dead zone for you, but.
Yeah, when I'm Mason Reuter, environmental planning supervisor. Yeah, it's difficult sometimes when someone calls our cell phone. A lot of the other counties usually contact my cell phone directly. I'll have to run up and down the hall to get service while I talk to them if they don't call my office directly. And we do get calls daily, multiple times. We got a call today from Gove County who's going to be picking up our trailer for their collection. Run out there, do some processing, do what we can. Then we get a call that someone's back at the office, so we head back this way, and then vice versa all day, every day. And that's not including us needing to go out and do our regular inspections for planning and zoning, environmental, and everything else. So and between having one pickup with us, we run back and forth quite a bit. So it would make things a lot easier to be located in an area where we spend a lot of our time anyway. And I guess for cell reception too, that'd be a wonderful thing. Yeah, it'd be nice to be there, and then we'd have direct access to major veins that get us north and south of the county than downtown would be.
Yeah, when our Northwest Business Corridor is done, that's pretty quick to shoot out
Yeah, that'll be nice to
north
just
and stuff too.
whip up north, but.
I guess we're talking about potential RFPs with this and things like that. Have you thought about the building plan and what you would do out there?
Yeah, we've looked at a few different options. I think we settled on a building that's small and cost-effective enough that would be able to house us all and meet all of our minimum requirements. Just preliminary talking, we might be able to do this without having to increase any staff either. We can keep everything essentially running the same. It's just reorganization and putting us out there.
Mason has done a good job. He's actually got plans laid out for the entire structure. It's about a 30 by 50.
30 by 50 structure.
With enough offices to combine both departments and have the environmental out there as well as an office for the this extra staff that they rotate at the solid waste at the scale house. So that way they won't actually have them be working out of the old shop building, and they can cross-train staff to, if Mason needs to hop in a loader to go push trash, or if they need to handle out something, or if they need to cover the scale house, there's additional personnel out there to cover those sick days, vacation days, et cetera, or just when they get extra busy.
And we think we can finance this on a neutral budget, 2021?
So part of this is, when we're talking about the Public Works Director, there's going to be a couple of those positions that we'll come back to you with in next year when we look at the budget for 2022. But with the so some of the efficiencies is going to save us some money, but also with the reduction in what you would actually need to be required for your Public Works Director, those salary reductions there can be used to make the salary increases for the combined department and that department head.
Okay.
And we can also take the current trailer that was supposed to be temporary at the landfill and sell that off, Purple Wave or something like that, so we can have some revenue increase there as well.
Where are you talking about this building being located out there?
Just preliminary site would be almost to the immediate west of the current gate, to where the entrance could be accessed from without the creation of additional entrance. There's sufficient area there for vehicles to park. Say we have a few contractors stop in to see us for our environmental stuff. And the rest of the building would be located within the fence. So there's protection for, at the end of the night when the gate's closed, you can still.
Oh, you got some?
Yeah, got some preliminary stuff that we had talked about, but you can still access the building from the front and keep the rest of the building and equipment locked inside the fence as well.
Perfect.
And I know a guy who does the wastewater, so he can design that for us too.
Okay. I guess long-term, we got to look at what would happen with offices down here. Is there a need in our building for county staff, or will we look at potential tenants?
There's an idea that's out there, not just because I'm in that office, but this has been discussion all the way back when Phil was here, about moving environmental out there. And there was a thought of having the administrative offices for human resources and the county administrator move down here, and then use the larger room for an executive training type conference room, because there's quite a large room right out in the
Yeah.
middle. And I actually called Mason today to help you save some steps in the future. We could have your executive sessions over there as well, instead of having to go all the way upstairs and have that lag between the start and the end of the meetings. That's just one idea. That would be something else that we would be able to look at in the future to see if there's any other ideas.
New administrator would probably like to be hiding a little bit from people and not have that window right to the public. Yeah, no, I think this is a good idea. I think it's a good look forward, and I think it's a good way to combine resources out there and make it a little more efficient. Just a matter of trying to figure out how to do this, on a tight budget, as tight as we can get it.
Commissioners, do I hear a motion?
I move to remove the environmental and solid waste divisions from Public Works and assign those divisions under the county administrator starting January 1st, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
We will get those RFPs out for the new building here hopefully this month, and then maybe by sometime in mid to late January, we can have the proposals back for the results of the bid.
Very good.
Okay. Township elections. Donna?
Okay, we're still sorting out some of the election. In townships, we had 2 positions in each of the townships, and that was the trustee and the treasurer's position. And I've handed out, showing you clearly that we had, some names were on the ballot, some had numbers that were higher than the others to get elected to those positions. But I also have some there that we need to make decisions how you want to handle that, or draw names to see who to contact if they're interested. So we'll just start with Big Creek Township. And we had a tie with 2 candidates, but the one candidate had the most votes for the treasurer position. So Casey Herman took the treasurer's position. So we had 4 names: James E. Graham, and then I had a Jamie Graham. And both of them used the middle initial E. There is no Jamie E. Graham registered in Ellis County. So my girls are saying, maybe it could be the same person. So that would give them more votes than the others. So if you wish, I would be glad to contact that individual to see if they are interested in serving.
That sounds like a voter intent issue. I think that they wanted that, yep. Need a pen. Okay.
Okay, so we'll go forward with that. I appreciate that. And then I already had someone decline their vote. The certifications had been sent out to those that were elected with the most votes, and that would be Catherine, the treasurer. Leon Roletter has declined the position. So we have 8 candidates that received 1 vote. So if you wish to draw some names, I have those, or however you wish to do that.
Might as well.
Try to get her done, Dustin.
So that's Catherine Treasure. And then if you would draw like 4 names, I'll write them down, 4 names, then I know who to contact in that order.
Roxanne Dortzweiler.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Sauer.
Mm-hmm.
Pam Schmidt.
Mm-hmm.
And Raymond Schmidt.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So we get a taker.
So we'll do some contacting there. If not, I'll be back asking you, for some other names. So, thank you much there. Then we move on to Ellis Township. We had 2 that tied. They each had 2 votes, and that's Karen Dortzweiler and Susan Rimpey. So we'll grab those, Treasurer and Ellis.
Karen Dortweiler.
Okay, we'll contact her first, and then Susan the second. Okay, and then I wish to share that we did recently lose 2 members in our community that served several years on a township board, and that was Flores Dome in Freedom Township. He served as clerk, which was not up for election this time, and also in Victoria Township, Treasurer George Dinkle. So I want to express that both of those put in several years serving in that capacity, and I thank these people that serve in these because there is some effort and work that is involved through the township boards, through the Kansas statute. So I did visit with the other 2 on the Freedom Township. Since clerk was not up for election, they were going to visit the other 2 members and get back with me with possible names to suggest to you guys. So if you know of someone, you might keep that in mind in Freedom Township. But we know from past history, sometimes it's hard to find someone to serve in these positions. Okay, and then we'll move on down. And in Victoria Township, we had several situations. I mean, there's write-ins that people do not live in that township. So, of course, that means they would not qualify. But it got down to a Nicole Howard that did receive 2 votes. The other person that received votes was a Dinkle that lives in East Big Creek that was registered in East Big Creek. So if it's okay, I'll go ahead and contact Nicole Howard and see if she wished to serve in Victoria Township as trustee.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll move over. Like I said, George did pass away real recently, and he was treasurer. And since that one was elected, his name was on the ballot, and he did win. So the next one that had the most votes for as a write-in would be Curtis J. Dinkle. And if it's all right, I wish to, contact him to see if he would be interested. If he's not, then possibly I'll talk to the other 2 board members and get back with you.
Okay.
Sounds
good.
Okay. Then Wheatland Township, we had, for the trustee, there was a tie of 2 votes each for Daryl Yunker and Tony Rohr, and I'll tell you, in the past, both of them have turned me down, so I don't know what kind of luck we'll have, but
Should we pull a name?
let's see. Yeah, we'll let you.
See who gets to tell you no?
Well, I hope not, but they both have done that.
Tony Rohr.
Okay, so I'll talk to Tony first, and then I'll talk to Daryl. Okay, and then the last one that we need to review is we had a tie with 7 votes each for Wheatland treasurer. And so I will let you draw there if you want to draw several so we can contact down the line.
Donna Liker.
Okay.
Tyler Marcotte.
Okay.
Larry Korth.
Mm-hmm.
Two are stuck.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Colleen Neiman.
Okay, Colleen Nealon. Okay,
Yep, Colleen
4.
Neiman.
Okay. All right, so at least that gives us, people to contact to see if they are interested in serving. So I'll get back with you if we have some vacant positions.
Very good.
So thank you
Sounds good.
much.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, no problem.
County Administrator Report. Darren.
I just got 3 quick things. First item is we got our annual bill for 2021 for the Kansas League of Municipalities, which is paid for and budgeted out of the County Commissioners' budget. I just wanted to confirm that the commission wishes to renew that, and if so, we can get it sent in for invoices and get it paid.
Yeah.
to
What's the
go.
total on it?
It's $1,000, $1,064.08.
I think they've been pretty helpful in our hiring processes. Yep.
Okay, I will proceed with that. The second item is just a quick update. Just today at noon, we had the deadline for the CDBG-CV grants, and a quick list put together. We will continue to review those before we put them off to the review board, but for the micro grants, where that's an employee or businesses that have employees between 0 and 5, who say 0 because the owner counts not really as an employee. We have 17 micro-grant applications, and then the economic development grants, which are businesses that have 6 to 50 employees, we have 6. So we should have enough to review those, select them down, and bring back, like I say, the review board will look at them, and then first part of January, we'll bring it back to the commission to approve the recommendation and the award amounts for those such businesses.
Darren, are the requests enough to cover the amount of the grant?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Like I said, when we put the proposals together, we had both the micro grant and the economic development grants in a range. So that way, if we had more of some than the other, we could adjust the scale a little bit, reduce one so we can, increase the other, and fulfill the whole 100. I think the total was 132 or 136,000 that we received from the state. The last item, just a quick update on the CARES funding. As the commission is aware, we were awarded the $5.74 million. Been pretty busy on this over the last couple of weeks. We have now expended $5.44 million of that $5.74 million, which is about 95%. Since your last report, I believe we were down only spending about 40%. So we've made a significant payment out to the businesses and nonprofits that applied for the different funds. So it leaves us basically with about $304,000 left, and that as of Friday, we had about 10 businesses that hadn't received their full payment amount. As of today, I've gotten word from 9 out of 10 of those, and I looked at my phone. I think I've seen the last one, so hopefully this week we'll be able to return some of that or send out the rest of those payments, and be pretty close to 99% here within the upcoming week or so. It will be my goal next week on Monday at the commission meeting to present any remaining funds that we have. As of this afternoon, late this afternoon, I had 3 that has said that they do have some funds that they can't use. It's not a significant amount of money, but I'm trying to work with one of them to redesign their project a little bit so that way they can use those businesses. It's a local church, so that way they can use those without sending us the money back. But with that, we're just moving along. We've got 100% now compliance with all the MOUs and W-9s that were required. And as of today's deadline of having all of their documentation, all their receipts, their invoices, for everything that's required with their projects, they've got about 87% compliance. So as of today being the deadline, I think that's pretty good with everybody that we sent money out to. So we should be able to wrap this up in the coming weeks and meet all the requirements for what the state put on us. Any questions on any of that?
I just have one question on CARES Act. I guess it's a 2-part. How's the dispatch project going? Is it finishing up? And if we'd gotten delivery on that ambulance?
Yes, Jason got the ambulance, I believe, right before Thanksgiving, a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, and he's got that, he's working on getting it fully in service. And the CAD, the dispatch progress it's getting there. The remodel down there, they started getting everything moved so that way we can cut the hole in the wall. And we're addressing we've got an air conditioning issue down there that's it's about 18 years old, and we're doubling the size of the room, so we're looking at that. Once that's done, then all the servers, because we had several $100,000 in technology that's going to be installed down there. IT's been working very diligently with that, or both city and the county, getting all that in place, got the racks built, the equipment on it, and it's actually in place over here next door in IT. They got it here and in service, and so it's accessible by the new company that's be administering everything. The protocol software that we're installing within dispatch, the first couple steps of that, All the dispatchers, all 15 of them, have to go through 3 different levels of certification for their protocols on fire, law enforcement, and EMS. They're just about done with that, and then we'll be able to get that implemented right at the first of the year. There's a lot of pieces to it. There's probably a couple dozen that are all involved, but everything's moving along as expected. A lot of meetings, but it's going along really well
Very
for
good.
the time frame that we're dealt with on the Spark funds.
Very good. Okay. County Commissioner reports. Commissioner Roth.
No report from me.
Okay. Commissioner Hazelhurst.
The building at Shinshin is progressing well. I don't know if any of you've been out there, but it's going up nicely. Frame's all up. It's all looking good. They're gaining right along.
Okay.
That's all I got.
And I have no report. Executive sessions.
I move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the preliminary discussion of acquisition of real estate exception. The subject to be discussed during executive session is right-of-way acquisition. Open session will resume at 7:15. Is that right? Yeah, 7:15. In the commission room, those persons to attend in addition to the Board of County Commissioners are Buck Driggs, Darren Myers, Bill Ring, and Michael Baxter.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception. Open session will resume at 7:35. Those persons to attend, in addition to the Board of County Commissioners, are Lisa Ree, Tom Drees, and Robert Anderson.
I'll second that motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0.
And now we're on to this one. I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception. Open session will resume at be 7:45. Those persons to attend in addition to the Board of County Commissioners are Jason Kennedy, Darren Myers, and Michael Baxter.
I'll second that motion. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0.
All right. No, we aren't. We're going to make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion to make the Assistant EMS Director permanent for budget year 2021.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0.
Okay, and I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to non-elected personnel matters. I believe that's what we got here. Yeah. The subject to be discussed during executive session is Public Works Director finalists. Open session will resume at 8:05. Those persons in attendance to the Board of County, with the Board of County Commissioners are Darren Myers and Michael Baxter.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0.
we got some action, Donna. I move to change the Public Work Director job description from a pay grade 122 down to a 120.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Meeting is adjourned at 8:11.
There's those. Yep, no problem.
Then I don't doubt.